here. As we get lifted higher and higher, I hope these messages, these words lift you higher and higher, because we're continuing our theme, and today's talk is acting in a certain way from the Wallace Wattles book. So the last two talks that I have given, I asked you to take a little assessment to see where you really, how you are experiencing a pathway to God's plenty, a journey of joy, living from Spirit's purpose as you, and the third was a course in conscious creation. And we've been doing this. This is the third talk in this series. You gave yourself a number between 1 and 5. And does anyone remember that? Yes. We had handouts, we had the whole thing. Yeah. Yes? Good. Good. Just checking. Well, if you weren't here to do the 30-day experiment, which we are doing, there are forms in the back. There's small pieces of paper. Take one home and just start in 30 days straight. It's all explained on the paper. And I would encourage you, in fact, to watch last week's talk. It's on our website under the videos. You just click the YouTube because it's up on YouTube, so you can YouTube my name and it will appear. So you can always see the pride. In fact, I'm in the newsletter this week with Sarkis, who did the talk the week before. So there's if you open your newsletters that I send out every week, I could see who opens them if I want. You'll get a double treat because Sarkis and myself, both videos are in the newsletter. Okay, so we've been talking about this, some really powerful stuff we're creating. And what we want to create is, the first thing we want to create, and tell me if I'm wrong, a life that we love living. Yes? Yes? Yes. A life in harmony with our divine nature and on purpose. Yes. And, this is one of my favorites, a life lived by design, not by default. Yes. That's conscious living. That is consciously choosing what we are going to experience, because stuff happens in life, but we get to choose which way we're going to respond to it, not react, respond to it, and that's conscious choice, and not living by default, which is just letting life happen. Oh well, this is the way it is, isn't it? It's always this way, and it'll always stay that way. So anyway, we've talked about cultivating a deep and personal, regular relationship with our CSO, which means what?
Chief Spiritual Officer.
CSO, our Chief Spiritual Officer. Yes, and that has made all the difference. So that's in knowing to do what is ours to do, and then allowing Spirit, the guide, God, whatever you want to call this power, to do all the rest. And there are 4 things that are ours to do. And so it's to be really clear about what we want. Be really, really clear about what we really want. And align with what we want. Like feel it, like it is already taking place. To be grateful in advance for what we want. As I love these stories that were just shared. Somebody is tithing on what they want to make, not what is coming in. But this is the amount they want to make. So they tithe on that. That's planning in advance and being grateful. It must happen, and you'll see why in today's talk. Because it's all about the law. It's about the unformed substance, the whole talk today. We've explored having a daily business meetings. That was last week. Remember, if you were here, we had a divine agenda where we met with our CSOs on our board. Every day we meet with our CSO. It's all on the back of what to do when you had that meeting with your divine, your divine self, actually, and the greater self, the oneness of life itself. So take one of those papers if you didn't get one. Today we're going to continue combining the work of Mae McCarthy in her book, The Path to Wealth, with the work of Wallace Wattles in The Science of Getting Rich. Together, and find that in addition to our regular meetings with our CSO, we must also act act in a certain way. This is all in Waddell's book. Act in a certain way. In fact, Waddell writes this in his Science of Getting Rich. And it's a little heady, but you're going to get it. Because I'm going to stand up here all morning until you really get it. Because it's so important. This is the creative process. And the creative process is when we consciously design our lives by our thoughts. Thoughts are things. So Wallace Waddell says this: you must not rely upon thought alone, paying no attention to personal action. That is the rock upon which many otherwise scientific, metaphysical thinkers meet shipwreck. The failure to connect thought with personal action must do the action part. Anyone that tells you differently is, I don't know, maybe they can manifest just by sitting there and thinking it. All things are possible, but you know, you receive divine guidance and act on that guidance to do the action. It's so great. And you got to remember, the Wallace Waddles wrote this book before 1910. So it's not like this is some, although now you're seeing all the New Thought writers are saying the same exact thing. The same, our thoughts, our emotions are creating our experiences in life. Life is happening, okay? All of us go through stuff in life. It's part of being human. But our spiritual self knows the real truth of who we are. And today we're going to connect thought with personal action. So in order to connect with personal action, we need to focus for a few minutes on the idea of what kind of thoughts we are connecting to action. And Waddles happens to have a chapter in his book entitled Thinking in a Certain Way. So let's explore that for a few moments. And we'll make then the connection to acting in a certain way. So the caveat is, now this is not going to be anything new to most of us. We hear the same thing over and over again, but you know what? I've taught the same class maybe 15, 20 times, and every time I read the book for that class, I learn something new again. So listen with new ears and see what comes forward. So thinking in a certain way. Waddell suggests that in order to think in a certain way, we must have a foundation on which to build our thinking. So I want to share 3 principles on which our work is based. 3 principles, and they are: 1, there is one original formless stuff or substance. This is Wallace Waddles, actually, from which all things are made, and which, in its unformed state, permeates and penetrates and fills all space. You know what we're talking about. Do you know what we're talking? What are we talking about? Somebody yell it out.
Substance.
Substance, what's that?
God.
So God.
Spirit.
It is, and it's God and it's law. The stuff that we can actually, is formless, it's neutral, it's non-judgmental. So as we think and as we speak into it, we get back, we impress upon it, because it's neutral, it's non-judgmental, we get back what we put into it. You've heard about the law of cause and effect, the law of attraction. These are how these spiritual laws work. Anyway, Holmes says this in Science of Mind, actually on page 52. We are surrounded by an intelligent force and substance from which all things come, the ultimate essence in the invisible and subjective world, of all visible and objective forms and conditions. It is around us in its original state, ready and willing to take form. So as we just said, it's that whole creative process. Remember, the seed, which being our thought, goes into the law, which is the soil or substance, becomes the effect, which is our experience. That's a law of creation. That's what our symbol is about. That's why it's divided into 3 parts. That's what we go over and teach in foundation class. How to use this, how it works, because it does work. It does. It's scientific. A thought, the second part of that anyway, is a thought placed into this substance produces the thing that is thought. So as you're thinking, that thought is going into the law, the substance, which is unformed, which gives us back. Now, the good news is there's many layers. So everything you think does not become your experience. Just know that, because, you know, it could be really, I mean, God is this divine creator of all that is, was, and ever shall be. It was not a dummy. You know, brilliant intelligence, wisdom here. Not going to give us everything we think, because it's got to go through us. I'll do this. It's got to go through our subconscious, first of all, which has got a ton of hidden beliefs. And then it's got to pass through the collective unconscious, which is the human. There's a whole human unconscious, collective unconscious, or race consciousness, as Holmes calls it, that thought must pass through. So for that thought to actually become an experience, it's got to be held for an awful long time with an intense emotion. So not every thought we think becomes our actual reality, unless we think it too many times. Yeah, is right. Yes, a good thing. It's a really good thing. So Holmes wrote this: the starting point of all creation is the thought of God. It is the self-knowing mind speaking itself into manifestation. Genesis states it so clearly. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light, and it was good. All things began with a divine thought. First cause, as Ernest Holmes calls it. First cause. One thought. Galaxies made, planets made, forms are made. This is the genius that we're speaking of, beyond all human comprehension. 3, we can form things in our thoughts which are impressed upon the formless or substance and cause the thing we thought about to be created. As I said before, it's how the law of attraction works, and all laws work. It's how life works, how we are holding ourselves. And you know people that walk around, it's like with a cloud over their head all the time. It's all woe is me. It's always stuff going wrong in their life. It's constant, and it will continue until there is a stopping point, a change in thought, in thinking, in emotions, and a whole different. The world is open for me. It's all open for my good. Putting that in instead of it's all everyone's against me. So Holmes wrote this: thought becomes the thing. Our mental state takes on form, color, and temporary reality. All experiences are temporary. We outwardly experience our states of consciousness. So I want to go over those 3 real quick again, because there was a lot of me jumped in there. The first is, there is one original formless stuff or substance from which all things are made, and which in its unformed state penetrates, permeates, and fills all space. The second is, a thought placed into this substance produces the thing that is thought. And the third is, therefore we can form things in our thoughts which are impressed upon the formless stuff or substance and cause the thing we thought about to be created. Conscious creation. You all with me?
Yes.
Good. This is what New Thought 101 is basically about. These are the words of Wallace Wattles from The Science of Getting Rich, but they're supported by all the New Thought writers. And Ernest Holmes said, because this is true, and it is, we must then be sure to think in a certain way. And what is that way? And then Wallace Wattles writes this: you must form a clear and definite mental picture. So important. You have to have the spiritual prototype, a mental equivalent. So I'll go back. You must form a clear and definite mental picture of what you want. You cannot transmit an idea unless you have it yourself. You must have it before you can give it. And many people fail to impress thinking substance because they have themselves only a vague and misty concept of the things they want to do, to have, or to become. That's why the clarity is key. And let me finish. You need to know what you want, and to want it badly enough so that it will stay in your thoughts. And so we might not have, I speak for myself, the clearest picture of exactly what the thing is that I desire and want in my life, but I know the feeling that I want to experience in my life. And so by knowing the feeling, so if I want to feel security, and I hold this, I know that I'm secure and that the source of all good is always working for me, manifestation of abundance and all kinds of good are going to show up in my life. And it goes to health. It goes to every area of our life, career, relationships, whatever it is. Okay. So, let's take a breath. Thank you, I needed that. So what is the first of the four things that are ours to do? So this was the first one, is to decide what we want. Yeah? And what is the second thing that is ours to do, leaving the rest to the CSO? To align with what we want, right? And where do we align? How do we align with the divine? How do we align with what we want? In our thoughts, thank you very much. A+ student right there. And where is our spiritual work? And where our spiritual work is to stand guard at the portals of our mind, remember Emerson? And to think only the thoughts we want to see manifested in our lives. Don't think about what you don't want in your life. Wow. Think about what you want in your life, right? Yeah. So I will add to that and just say that if anything passes between your ears that you don't want returned into your life, to do a check and see what you're hearing, what you're saying about yourself and about others. It's not always easy to do. I can tell you that right now. It's not always easy to do. And I understand that because I'm right there with y'all. Waddles writes this: "It is not your part to guide or supervise the creative process. All you have to do with that is to retain your vision. Don't let your vision go. Don't weaken because it hasn't shown up yet." I get impatient too. I have to say, it's in God's time, and I'm like, sometimes we doubt, like, so when is that? You know, because we want it to be in our time, even though my clock is running late. We want it to be in our time, so it's up to us to, just hold on to our vision. Stick to your purpose and maintain your faith, as we spoke of today. That faith is key. And gratitude, always being grateful. And the third thing that is ours to do, according to May McCarthy, is to be grateful in advance, just like that tithing in advance. The same with gratitude. Pour it out in advance, expecting the good, expecting what it is you want to experience, and feel that vibration of what it is you want to experience, feel like it's already happening, because the law will, the substance will respond to that. It is the vision, faith, gratitude, and one more ingredient, which makes the difference between the scientist and the dreamer. And that one more ingredient, according to Waddles and every other metaphysical teacher I know of, is acting in a certain way. So what's that again? This is Wallace Waddles. He writes this. This is a little weird, but it makes sense. "Your pocketbook is not going to be transformed into a Fortunata's purse, which shall be always full of money without effort on your part. This is the crucial point in the science of getting rich," he writes. "Right here where thought and personal action must be combined." So the first line of that quote, your pocketbook is not going to be transformed into Fortunata's purse, which shall be full of money without effort on your part, or at least a strong vision, I would say. Because we like to say in Science of Mind, effortless. Yeah. We like effortless. We don't like to effort. But, there are certain things that Waddles and I are a little, at war about. Not at war, but it's like I can soften some of his words. And this reminds me of a story, and I might have told it before, but it goes with this. It's about a man who walks into a restaurant with an ostrich behind him. And as he sits, the waitress comes over and asks for his order. And the man says, "I'll have a hamburger, fries, and a Coke." And she turns to the ostrich and he says, I'll have the same. Short time later, the waitress returns with the order. That will be $12.40, please. The man reached into his pocket without even looking and pulled out the $12.40, the exact payment. The next day, the man and the ostrich come back in again. And the man says, I'll have a grilled cheese, potato, salad, and a Coke. And the ostrich also said, I'll have the same thing. Order costs $10.10. Once again, the man reached into his pocket and pulled out the exact change. The next evening, the two entered again. I will have a steak, a baked potato, and a salad, oh, and a Coke, said the man. Same for me, said the ostrich. And a short time later, the waitress comes with the order, and the man says to the man, that will be $35.62. And he reaches into his pocket and pulls out the exact change, exactly, without even looking. Place it on the table. The waitress can't hold back her curiosity any longer. Excuse me, sir, how do you manage to always come up with the exact change out of your pocket every single time? Well, said the man, several years ago I was cleaning out my attic and I found an old tarnished lamp. And it was a pretty lamp, so I decided to polish it. So I was rubbing this lamp, and all of a sudden a genie appeared and gave me 2 wishes. My first wish was that if I ever had to pay for anything, I'd just put my hand in my pocket and there would always be the right amount of money. It would always be there. The waitress said, that's brilliant, so well thought out. Most people would have wished for $1 million or $2 or something like that. But you'll always be as rich as you want as long as you live, because the money's always going to be in the pocket. That's right. Whether it's a gallon of milk, said the man, or Rolls Royce, the exact amount is always there. It's really wonderful. And the waitress asks, so one other thing, sir, what's with the ostrich? You would ask the same question. The man replies, my second wish wasn't as well thought out. I wish for a chick with long legs. So be careful what you wish for. Very specific. So, we don't have a genie to give us magic pockets, so we must take action, right? Action. And Waddles writes this: by thought, the thing you want is brought to you. By action, you receive it. I love that. By thought, the thing is brought to you. By action, you receive it. But what kind of action? We must, according to Waddles, act in a certain way. So he writes this. It's not much more, so hang in there. Because this is really good. And you really get this stuff. It's so good. It really is so good. Okay, so Waddles writes this. I can't help it. I love this stuff. You cannot act where you are not. You cannot act where you have been. And you cannot act where you are going to be. You can act only where you are today. Do not bother as to whether yesterday's work was well done or ill done. Do today's work well, and do not try to do tomorrow's work now. There will be plenty of time to do that when you get to it. Do not wait for a change of environment before you act. This is key to Wallace Waddles' work. I love this part of his book. Let me say that again. Do not wait for a change in environment before you act. Get a change of environment by action held with faith and purpose. The vision of yourself in the better environment, but act upon your present environment with all your heart and all your strength and all your mind. I love that because it says no matter where you are right now, might not be the best job ever, might not be, but hold your dream while you are still living day-to-day experiences, whatever it is. He's very clear about that. Hold the higher vision while you do well what you do. in your everyday life. And here's a great little story that goes in with that. Amelia Earhart wanted to be a great aviator, but it was in the 1920s, and people still thought that women were frail and weak and didn't have what it takes. And if you remember, the women's suffrage was less than 10 years, less than a decade old. She couldn't make her living as a pilot, so she took a job as a social worker. And she kept her vision, though. She kept her vision to be a pilot, acting upon in her present environment, but kept the vision of the being a pilot with all her heart, strength, and mind. Then one day, I'm quoting from a reading, then one day her phone rang. The man on the line had a pretty offensive proposition, along with the line, somewhere along these lines. We have someone willing to fund the first female transatlantic flight. Now, you won't get to actually fly the plane, and we're going to send 2 men along as chaperones. And guess what? We'll pay them a lot of money, and we're not paying you anything. Oh, and by the way, you very well might die doing this. Do you want it? And you know what she said to that offer? Yes, of course. She did that. Because that's what people do who have a vision and choose to act on it. That's how people who become great do. That's exactly what they do. They start anywhere, anyhow. They don't care if the conditions are perfect or if they are being slighted. She did that flight successfully, and less than 5 years after it, Amelia was the first woman to fly solo, nonstop, across the Atlantic, and become, rightly so, one of the most famous and respected people in the world, because she took action even when it didn't look like exactly what she wanted. None of that would have happened had she turned her nose up at that first offer, that offensive offer actually, and started to feel sorry for herself. No, she acted in a certain way. You get it? Yeah. A certain way. So, conclusion. The idea of having your vision, seeing it, living it, by thinking and acting in that certain way. You've got to take the action when it's presented. Your mind will give you a million reasons why you shouldn't, but follow that intuition. Follow that. That's your God self giving you guidance. Because when you're thinking and acting in a certain way, it's a pathway to God's plenty. It's a journey of joy, living from Spirit's purpose as you. And it's a course in conscious creation. I don't want to leave you with some very wise thoughts from a very wise man about his journey. And he called this journey his calling. It's the same thing as what we're talking about. Acting in a certain way despite what conditions that you are in. This is what I have, and this is from, actually, I read the part of this before. It's from a minister friend of mine, her husband, who has a prison ministry. So anyway, this letter came, and this man wrote this. I now realize that we don't get to choose our calling in life. We get to choose whether or not we will listen to each nudge or flare, whether or not we will believe, and whether or not we will dedicate ourselves to this territory of homecoming within us. Sometimes I really wish that people understood how it feels to be me. Each and every day I have this big fire desire within me, and it's to move mountains. I want so much to use this gift inside of me to change so many lives. But the hardest job has been to move the mountains within my own life. Thank you for giving me the tools to move those mountains. Those tools are exactly what we've been talking about this morning. Creating a relationship with your CSO. Having your daily meetings, your divine agenda, set it up. Thinking in a certain way and acting in a certain way. That is what this man has done. And if the author of those words can do it, so can you, my friend. So who wrote these words? The letter came from Leo Wright, resident of Lewis Prison, If Leo can do it in that environment, he is, in my friend, and what I believe, an incredible inspiration. The circumstances of his life didn't keep him prisoner. You've heard of this before. He was able to fulfill his indwelling fire. He was able to fulfill that which wanted to be filled within him in his life. He was able to do this behind bars. So if he can do it, I'm saying we can do it too in our lives. We can do it too. So let's do that together. Remind each other. You know, when we fail, let's remind each other. We can do it. You can do it, right?
Right.